教son je wo son je je so je cho na la chang jo pa do da ne jiao zun je da ye je o je so na ro la pen je san je lo ban jo san ye che dan so ye cho nan la yo ba do dan ne jiao zun je da ye jin so ye so nan je ro la pen je san ro ba jo sem je tam je le wa Devi Judan Sim Chan Am Che Ding Me Dan Ding Me Je Judan Sim Chan Tam Che Ding Me Je Je Wa Dan Je Sim Chan Tam Che Ni Ra Cha Dan Ni Dan Je We Dan Yang La Ni Wa Jo Sim Chan Tam Che Di Wa Dan Di Je Dan Dan Bo Je Ju Sim Chan Tam Che Di Me Cha Wa Je Ju Sim Chan Tam Che Di Me Di Wa Dan Je Wa Je Ju Sim Chan Tam Che Ni Ra Do We Dan Nyong La Ne Wa Ra Ju Ro Je 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 shang me do chang ra ra long zhen yer de jian ban de shang je shang de mu de fu wa yin zhu gan nam do shang na jiu ba zhu ye dong ge ru ra na men zha na gang ne ya da ya me.
In English, on page 11, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings embody equanimity, feel bias, attachment, and anger. This ground, anointed with perfume, burned with flowers of Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surrounded by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha-filled altar. May all living beings enjoy the pure land. Yeda Uro
Rana Manjala Kanaya Dayam Kange Doji Nizone Dawa Tanche Pome Shari Tambe Chine Tandaba Kutum Dina Shandano Tonya Nyan Jesu Ziwan Kande Shinjango Shana Bemu Tanze Yazona Suwan the Sojet Guti Sandagora Kilopalide. Oh, the Suyaki, no, just delay. Ani that's malani just delay you. Tene Dangazukiran Gonum Waga. Ani that's what you at the Chayore. Tene Dangazo Gutsunya di China Tambo, the Kazumana Gumti Jari, that in a Gumja Timugochini. Ane Kazan Tanda Tatunich Kichi, the Gurumawan in Zepapo, any Kamala Shirga, any Gurumawan Zeala, any Janak Hasanga, any Tawatila, the sins in which it is in the Kulojin of Sherry. Tatunich to watch down I just see to us started. That the anti captain Toto Zitaja was a young mayon. The knee Toto Zirando trauma something. That young equal thing to these session asms.
So, good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining me in this afternoon's Dharma discussion. and on the topic of the intermediate stages of meditation, by Acharya Kamalashila. So we have this is actually the second class on this very topic and the text. So in the previous occasion, we talked about a little bit about the stages of meditation and so middle session, and we talked about Kamalashila and Acharya, the great Indian master who came to Tibet, and what he did and the reason he came to Tibet. So after that, based on that conversation, or my the comments I made, and I received two feedback, and one is a student or an individual who posted something online and asked me a question regarding the serious philosophical debate between the Chinese Mahayana monk called Haxiang, and it's a background the information, and also the Stacy. In addition to what I received from the question from online, Stacy also asked about the kind of verification or clarification about what it really is a Haxiang and or Chinese monk and who come to Tibet, and then had such a the intense philosophical and spiritual debate with the master Acharya Kamalashila. And so I think although I tried to answer the question, but toward the end of the session or discussion, there was a problem with the internet, and also the way I tried to answer the question, and probably wasn't clear enough. So therefore, today, I'm not going to do the same thing like we did a practice meditation, and like we did in the previous class at the beginning with practice meditation. So today, we're not going to practice meditation, but rather I'd like to straight ahead go to these two questions, or the question, actually is one question about what is the debates taking place between the Chinese Mahayana monk and Haxiang and Acharya Kamalashila.
Tani ta kharchang ngi ti janak Haxiang ji ya yong ma to Haxiang ge chen dang de zung ye go ta ya ma ji lo ni ta chi dang ngarang de yong chama la ni ji hu cha mong bu ki yong tu me song zang ni chen de go cha ku ma so ta ngi ya ma ji da thang din thon din na ya ma ji lo ni 아니 담몬치오 저 투니도 고자 저거 저 팔는지니 또 사이트 참발다 다 피처 잔나 하상디 민나다 아니 마하야나스도 다 코니 단다 컨트롤 무치 마가 두고는 무치 다 준산한다 딘다치 송산도 다 잔나 아니 하상 마하야나제티 아라니 소홈 범밍한 제제 말 켄신쇼와초 아니 사미 스틸 큰 거나나다 가조 사 그러자 궁가 dinsenchi warda tinona dinala ni khurang pheonin ta khurang jame ke tawazi tuseni ka pene ta ku jame be tawazi ti kanijin jeng yorezina ta ngi jom buzi ama je lo chamala khurang ga ani pi do kanije ja yorezina pi ni do ji ja jandu pi chi kar ja yorezina ne giwa nala ane khwa changse res ani magiwa ina khwa changse res ani khurang ga te pi do la kari sa yorezina ani nga jo ser ga chakta serga chakta nalani mi damchi kure chakta nalani mi damchi kure tiku giwat magani dusi chig jarjandu teni jon chig nalani ngazu te tobatum bin rawa tinona kari son jarjanzu na ngazu taku jame ke tawazi ati ngazu ne ngazu mi nyu khusong anan jinta ani temba thusong temba je song jing chiga tenji yo mara dusi ma song da ku ne da su ngazu gumtilani shepa toni gati jige tion de nam top he ngori se nam top he samala ani ta khura chashi ke jir chakare je khugani ji tawan ru thartin ru da tinda jin sari ta ngana tanda pa charchin no na toba donde ma konton mo shi konton tembe du
Okay. Well, first of all, and in the last Sunday, I think I just opened lead you to the discussions of this philosophical debates between the Chinese monk and Acharya Kamalashla. And so at that point, I said Hashang, or Chinese Hashang. Hashang means in Chinese language is a monk or fully ordained monk. Ordained monk is called Hashang, and I didn't know that its name. So after that, and I did some research. I read the several texts. And in fact, up until this very point, because when I come to United States and due to the limitations of the luggage, and I didn't bring the materials and the textbook, and so therefore I'm here in the sense that don't have the same accessibility. Or same amount of text like I used to do. I have in India. So therefore, my research on this very topic is still limited. But nevertheless, and in the last couple of weeks, I did some search on internet. I also read some articles and the textbook, where one of the article, the textbook which I found is by one of the eminent master for the Tukun Rinpoche. So what the Tukun Rinpoche said in his textbook regarding this very issue, the nature of the issue, the debates and the philosophical debate taking place between the Kamalashla and the Chinese monk Hashang. Is become a little clear. So where, according to Tukun Rinpoche, as we talked earlier and last week, the Shantarashta, the great Indian master Shantarashta, who come to Tibet, and the patronage of great king of Tibet, and then established the first monastery, Senmi Monastery, where then Senmi Monastery was then divided into three different individual institutions. One of them is called the institution or the house of the meditation. And then that institution or that part of the monastery, and there were a Chinese monk who come from China and who taught a form of meditation, who introduced a form of meditation, or the technique of meditation, or theory, the practice of traditions of meditation, where they say any form of analytical inquiry or study of the Buddha Dharma is not necessary, and in fact, there is a subject to abandonment. Right? And according to the textbook by Tukun Rinpoche, where they gave the two examples, and one example is to say that either way, whether is your form of action, like at a mental level, speech level, or at the physical level. So the virtuous action, let's say, and it doesn't matter which I have a level in a virtuous action. So by its very nature, and it is serve us the bondage, right? And just like the way the non-virtuous action could put us in the trap of the samsara, right? And the equally the virtuous the thoughts and or the inquiry that's involved with the thoughts, the process of the inquiry itself also could be and fundamentally serve as the bondage and of the bondage and to the handkerchief, right, and the kind of tied up the individual's hands, right. So now to get help with the individual practitioner to get free. And he then goes on, give a more specific example. He said, imagine that if you had even caught, right, handicapped by the handicapped itself, I guess, and which is made of gold, right, the golden one, and which would, in terms of put you and tie you up, not set you for free. It is us doing exactly the same thing, like the handkerchief made by the iron. So either way, the handkerchief which handicap is made by gold or the iron, and both are equally would prevent you to attain enlightenment. So therefore, and he promotes that idea, the meditation practice or the persuasion of enlightenment does not require, should not engage in the form of the philosophical inquiry. That's his argument. And then the second reference I find it by Gongtang Rinpoche. So in Gongtang Rinpoche's text is called the Eulogy of 7 points. Eulogy of the 7 points of 7 points of philosophical teaching, maybe. So eulogy of 7 points, critical points, maybe, and where Gongtang Rinpoche give a further explanation about what the trouble was created by this Chinese monk, whom later on, by the way, I find actually is called Mahayana. So the individual Chinese monk's name is Mahayana. So what Mahayana say, according to Gongtang Rinpoche, in the eulogy of the 7 points of philosophical teaching, and where he says, he introduced that the Mahayana, the Chinese monk, Hasha, who actually said that, the inquiry is not necessary and it doesn't serve or help individual to achieve the enlightenment. And so it's the best way or the most effective way, correct way to attain enlightenment, pursue the enlightenment is free of any philosophical inquiry or analytical studies or examinations. So he is essentially abandoned the philosophical inquiry or any critical analysis. So then Gongtang Rinpoche is arguing that this Mahayana and Chinese Hasha, a monk, what he say is as if he is suggesting that no inquiry whatsoever is like as if you put yourself into the sleep, the dreamless, thoughtless, dreamless state, and that it's just have no thoughts, no anything going on, like equal to you fell in deep sleep, right? And the second, so what are the troubles that what the Gongtang Rinpoche's text also that what he suggested, no inquiries needed, even to abandon the inquiry, process of inquiry, as if he suggested you lost the consciousness, and as if you lost consciousness, you become aware of nothing. So that's from those two references, textbook, and I learned that was the trouble, and why that's the problem in the Tibetans. That's what the trouble caused by Mahayana, Chinese monk called Mahayana.
다 두심바 손장네 다 그런 거 다와티라 다 쿠원에 컨타르장다 셰파치닝 말이지 다 수티라다 정메 금고레 셰파치닝 말이지 다 두심바 쿠 다와티나 아니 당 아주 띠가나 다 키랑라 다시 가요 요즈 가서 뭔가 두스토지 동아리 당하는 거가 지가 셰판루제나 아니 아주다 기와나나 쿠아 창시레 뭐 기와나나 쿠아 창시레 두스지가네 그 배자요라 되네 아니에 로가나제 아니 전제 시간에 다 예송하는 두스지는 아주 아니 셰파 마타이나 다 기와다 아니 파라자소 되네 먹기위 쿠르티랑 아주 셰파 마타이나 아니 당아주 지정의 맞자는 먹기와 제시시한 거라다 아니 리치디는 남바서 ngakna namaz 강에 지나서 뭐 먹기 주고 소소서 지다 먹기와 제디 디시단지 되는 아주 도처시다 때문 아니 아주 코아 쿠시 그제 마찬가지로 땅 아주 스비 콜룸 나타 마찬가지로 때라다 도처시다 때문 뜻줄라 아니 년부 된당다 셰바 맞자이나 아니 아주 다 타와당 탐지 준비하지 용하지 준 요말이 전부도 디지당 되니 당 아주 담몽봉 무시바 담고 하지 되니 아니 받은 다와 접하고 아니 가리상조 나니 로만지관나 다 로마제된 아주 마사르고니 받은 다와 접하고 로만지가 마사지는 대강나다 아니 좀망부장요래 다 섬요라다 아니 자존라 요래 아니 보바 켜건 너는 존라 요래 다 받은 다와 접하고 아니 로만지관나 가리상 요르지나 디덕 근조 디냐 댄리님 딜리냠을 타와줘요 문지요라다 디덕 근조 디냐 댄리님 딜리냠을 타와줘요 문지 구 타지다니 타제 두송요래 당 아주 셰바 맞죠이나 아주니 난치긴데네 냠는 그 수디 지 남자 람지 남자 지위 남자지다 차상나 두신 거요래 두스 용바 정당 아주니 셰바 맞지나 지 남자 지 담바니지 담바니디 니 딸나 키트기요 말이다 돈도도세나 당 아주 난치가 마찬 로스나 담바자 자와 타트라우 티테레스나 담바니리 지 남자 때 딸나 파마트가이나 아니 근조 담바티 다 돈돈 담바자서 다 돈이 타와티 마신 근조 담바티 딸나 파마트가나 아니 아주 뉴란 디지털 담마치제 당 뉴 드니 담마치제 당 드니 뉴라 지시 담만 디시 다 디사상 딸나 파트기요 말 딸나 파마트가나 동시 치전시가 벤트 딸나 파트기요 말 동시 치전시가 아니 딸나 파마트가이나 디건가 돈이 됐다는 파트기요 말이 두세 임바송도 다 타트나니 관다가 저 고만지가나 디터 근조 되냐 된리님 딜리냠을 타줘야면서 아니 지 덴바니가 남자들라 딸나 파마트가이나 아주 람탑신이 용아요 말이다 람탑신이 용하면 디워크니제티 치크탄스 그냥 주체진 아주 제르고요라 다 디터 근조 되냐 된리냠지나 아니 두세 딸나 파마트나니 근조 용탄 파트기요 말이지 디탄나 바마스나니 아니 덴리냠즈가나 돈도 담바티 안타나 파트기요 말이지 근조 담바탄 돈도 담바니라 딸나 파마트나 셰바 마체이나 아니 딜리 타와던 줘요 바다 메바다 땡케리지 딜리 냠벌 타와 줘요 면스 아니 다 거든 다와 줘 타시도 두송요 레시
Okay. So I was again asked then what my opinion about this Chinese Mahayana monk Haxiang, and whose approach to the Enlightenment, meaning that completely abandon any form of. So here, what I'm thinking, of course, it's the general the teachings or the basic understanding of in Buddhism. So this is not a personal opinion. So what got wrong if you abandon the critical analysis or philosophical inquiry, right? What's the problem of that kind of practice is, or the theory, right? And who believe that there is no inquiry is needed, and that there is no philosophical critical analysis is necessary. Let's say if you think that that's the truth, right, that is the right way, then the first trouble is how you're going to resolve the first very basic Buddhist teaching, that is to withdraw yourself from the non-virtuous action and dedicate yourself and to the virtuous action. So meaning that how you differentiate that, right? The virtuous from non-virtuous, right? And because essentially, if you say that your practice of meditation should be like as if you're suggesting, to get yourself to the meditative absorption, where so it's like as if you fell into deep sleep, right, where you have no any thoughts whatsoever, and so no awareness at all. And if that's the case, and then or if you suggest that no thoughts and no inquiries are necessary, and as if you lost the consciousness, right? You shocked and you lost consciousness. Now you can't. You are not thinking. You're not aware of anything. Then how are you going to draw the line between the virtuous and non-virtuous? And that's specifically speaking, like there's 10 virtuous action that we have to dedicate. There's 10 non-virtuous action we will have to abandon, right? We have to eliminate. And further, in the entire Buddhist practice and the purpose is essentially to get rid of the causes suffering that that's represented by the attachment or desire, right? And aversion and ignorance. Right? So if you're not analytically and examine it or critically the inquiry, right, perform any form of critical analysis and inquiry, then how you know and how you're going to abandon the attachment, aversion, and ignorance, which are the basically is the obstacle, which is obstructions, right, and that would prevent anyone from the pursuation of nirvana or the liberation, and or to ultimately into attain the enlightenment, the state of enlightenment, or become a Buddha, omniscient, right? So that's a question it has to be have to answer, right? So therefore, which is basically is completely wrong to suggest the thoughtless meditation, or try to promote and the thoughtless meditation and meditation and which is completely detached actually, free from any form of philosophical inquiry or analytical examination, and which is not the right thing to do, right? And further, if we go with the Chandrakirti's explanation about this point, importance of the analytical inquiry and importance of philosophical examination. And then in the Madhyamika Avatara, in that textbook, the Madhyamika Avatara, and what Shantideva, or entrance to the middle way philosophy, where the Shantideva and it basically is based on the Buddha's own words, the scripts, and then many eminent Indian masters, right, who arguing, who explained that the importance of the practice of philosophical inquiry or critical analysis, right? And not just India, the masters were, but the Tibetan masters studies and work as well. So where according to Chandrakirti, he says that if you ignore and or made the conventionality, the importance of it, if you ignore or downplay or abandon the importance of conventionality, in other words, the conventional truth, the importance of conventionality or conventional truth, and then it is impossible for you to establish and achieve the Buddhahood, the liberation, and the Buddhahood. Right? Why the Chandrakirti make such a strong statement and explicitly point out so the inquiry and the studies of conventionality or the conventional truth is necessary to attain the Buddhahood or to achieve the liberation. That is because in Buddhism we know that the Buddhist the structure of the Buddhist practice tradition is essentially about the three things or the three aspects involve the three dimensions. One is the base. Okay, the Buddhist practice involves the first is base, and which is a kind of ontological inquiry or ontological understanding, and then second is the path or the practice itself, right? And then lastly is about the outcome or the actuality, the result, right? So since the Buddhist, the entire Buddhist teaching is established or built up based on those three, right, components: the base, the path, and the results. So therefore, one must understand that the base is the clear understanding of the base, which is absolutely crucial. When we talk about understanding of the base, we have to know that this base means like the teachings of Four Noble Truths, right? Four Noble Truths, which is the base of the Buddhist teaching and Buddhist practice, and then of course that by which and the liberation or the enlightenment can be possible, makes the enlightenment or the attainment of liberation possible. Or we can approach this the idea of base from the point of view of the teachings of the two truths, right? In Buddhism, we have two truths: the truth, conventional truth, and ultimate truth, right? Here's the actual thing, right? Because if you do not care about the conventional truth or the importance of conventionality, and then you will not pay attention to you will not have the clear understanding of the two truths. If you fail to understand the two truths, and then you will not fully, correctly, purely engage in the two paths. The two paths are the paths of skillful means and paths of wisdom, right? And then if you fail to engage in and taking the path, the skillful means aspect of the path, the teaching, and the wisdom aspect of teaching, and that is the path, right? And then if it is impossible and for you to achieve the enlightenment that's represented by the two bodies of the Buddha. So two bodies of Buddha is the form body, right, Rupakaya, and the truth body, that is the Dharmakaya, right? Why? Because this is how the path, the structure of Buddhism be established. So first of all, you have to understand the base that's represented by true truth, and then you move on, right? Engage in the two paths, right? The two paths is a part of the skillful means and part of the realization itself, and then that will produce the result of two kayas or two bodies, Rupakaya, the form body, and the Dharmakaya, or truth body. So it is obvious at this point, and based on what the Shantidev and the Dharma, the Shantiketi, Shantiketi's the view that to abandon the thoughts or the inquiry and critical analysis, meaning you abandon the conventionality, a conventional truth, right? As a result, your practice of the skillful means and the wisdom will be incomplete. And then, of course, you cannot attend Buddhahood at all. And be more specific, for example, if you ignore the importance of conventionality, here, let's say you practice a meditation, right, or emptiness, or shunyata. So your practice of shunyata meditation has to have the conventional truth and serve as a base, right? So you have to have a conventional truth or something that's conventionality and belong to the categorization of conventionality, and then you can best on that very conventionality and conventional truth, then to inquiry, or then you can pursue in the realization of the emptiness itself, or the true nature of that very base. And then, so the problem is, again, if you ignore about the inquiry, and then you would not be able to understand the basis of the basis of emptiness. Yeah, without understanding the basis of emptiness, there's no way for you to understand the emptiness itself.
Tene tati sipatang mugaji tati kurtila ane tati muska ne kuken diksamji tene ta thamala ngazo ne ta jir muchiga oku ne ta chichida ne thojun chini marata ane dumchi jayora ta tangpo jachi tewa mangtacha warta jonu thamche dambarga thamen yenseng ganda nyamsana kenja tamba jiu che to nguzewara ta ti gare sungu yorjna ne ngazo thisim dang thiwa dang samba ma che na ane ta gumjaz chuni yo marata tangbo ni jachi tewa mangtachi warta ta samne jonu thamche dambarga thamen nyamseng ganda nyamsana zerga ta ngazo gumjate thiwa dang ne sambi tuntila ta gumjani nyamnen chi koresi 다 질무치가 dumditi jawra thatiko dumrawo ta titangi genru samdu da chame pe tawazi tus dejaina ta thisum jiyo ma da ngasu thiwa tang sambazina pe shepa tong no she gumzina ngo nyang ma chigan ro no ma to chiban ro cha de wara da.
Okay, I guess we don't. If you go with what the Jirmuche, the great eminent master Tsongkhapa, what he how he advised, what he taught us, then I guess will make us more clear about the importance of the importance of the philosophical and the practice of the philosophical inquiry. So because the Jirmuche in the Lama Tsongkhapa repeatedly and said, and based on his own learning experience and his enlightened experience, and he said that anyone who is engaging in the persuasion of or attainment of the enlightenment, who first of all has to, right, at first who must dedicate to the made effort to dedicate himself or herself to the project of the great expansion of the hearing. Okay, so to expand, put himself or herself into the actual spot where he or she can expand it, right, and generate a great range, very extensive range of the learning or the hearing and meaning study, and then at the middle after that, then move on to the middle phase of the stage, and then he or she must to refine and or re-examine and or inquiry and to taste the actual the validity and the practical and practical value of the knowledge or the information, the dharma, and that he or she have learned so far, and then to gain the certainty. And then once you gain the certainty, and then like Rinpoche advised, so day and night in the dedicated students must focus on, and that very certainty, that very the insight that he or she has established or achieved, and so in that way, that is the right way to pursue in the enlightenment, and that's the right the attitude and the Pasadama practitioner one has to follow. So, and then you see, if we just simply follow Lama Tsongkhapa's advice here, and then take it to the context, or do compare to what the Mahayana, the Chinese monk Haqiang, taught, that there's no thought needed, and so abandon all the philosophical inquiry, and then we can see, and so the distinctions between the Rinpoche's advice and the Mahayana or the Chinese Haqiang monks the approach, and so we know that how the Mahayana Chinese the Haqiang got very wrong.
Tene tangaju ta jongija rochina ta gono warandi ane tak ane kamala shiriti marone ane pola mara dendesine ta gorum warwa gorum thota person di jere ta gorum thota person di none ta chu gorum warandi pe hale oke chimbuta insare ta changurum buchi na namjin ta gorum warandi pe mambu songudu ane sonchi ta tikaptila ta gorum warwa ta ane ngaju lamsu namsim 제당 고노마와 땅에 제시 라든 소데 마제당 아니 고노마와 땅 나름 디톤제 디주 페타전이 몽부송도 다 고노마만데 아니 가리레즈나 다 고노 땅부티 아니 아주 신니게 코티페 니텐나다 니텐다 시텐지나 마지나다 신니게 코티 수온로 제네네 다통고 코티 아니 지 실라탄도 지리 아니 고노마와디 실록송제 아치니 두세니 마란 제요레 아니 고름 담아대야 지금 학통 거고디 문제요 사례 세톤 딘다지리 아니 영 세톤이와 지금 고름 담보대니 가만라 그런 거 아니 그런 거 따와요 와라 그런 거 도반도디 신이 거디 뭐 말아 줘네니 텔라 딥시치 동 체데모 부장 두세 고름 와와디 냠는 나잖아 수수 냠는 나잖아 지금 아주 냠슬렘 바다 루톨라 자주 디톤다 지치 고는 타마티 잔쇼 선진바스도 다 조조 잔쇼 선진바스 나마지나 네 보기때 학통 코즈나 그 세바통 거요라다 세바통이 말아가고 학통 거 그때 말아 주 센던지 요레즈네 두스지 손탄이도 다 손탄이고 강에나라다 고는 와반디 베케치 무징사레 고는 가와티 조조 네 샬로 손제 그고네 아니 샬로 손제 진네 손고요 티시당 아니 디그 돈에 조조도 지지 로라지 냠는 지야가 디 코르송여 송장니 깨치모르니 장군무치다 담몽보니 돈르지 송도 네 소응 아주 양지 종 칸당강니 셰반로 땅니 네 종티게 조자당 종티가니 지 돈당로 주주 하고 지 지콩로 지 차송나 너 소소 지 투아페라니 쳬프리오지 섬동이 니도 지칸로 윈티라 네
Oh yeah. Mhm. So now let's go to the actual text. Again, the text is by great Acharya, the master Kamalashila. So text is the Kamalashala's Bhavana and the Karma, the immediate stage of meditation. And so this text is what we study here is actually the middle session, right? Middle session. Which means in the Kamalashila, who composed the three different texts, different texts, and about the meditation, or in Sanskrit is Bhavana Karma. So Bhavana Karma basically is divided into the first session, middle session, and the last session, right? So what we here needed to know is that there are two different interpretations about the essence of this very important text, okay? In the middle, the middle session, right? The middle session, the immediate stage of meditation. Why is it important is because in this, according to one theory or one interpretation, and the first section of the Bharava Karama, or the Kamalashala's the immediate stage of meditation, and where the Kamalashala was focused on the Shini meditation, in other words, the shamatha meditation, or karma abiding meditation. So where he is mainly principally, he was focused on how to calm one's mind and how to achieve the karma abiding, right? But he did address the ideas and then made some reference with respect to the special insight, right? But primarily or principally, his main focus in the first section of the textbook was about shamatha, about Shini in Tibetan, and comment by the meditation. In the middle section, which is the one we are talking about, we're going to study, is very, very important one, consider. Why? Because like His Holiness Dalai Lama, he repeatedly teach the middle session of the Kamalashala's Bhavana Karma, he taught this quite publicly and very often, and in fact, he teaches this middle session along with such the important teachings, such like the three principal paths, three principal teachings of the path to the enlightenment in Tibetan called Lamdonasam, and then he also teaches the practice, the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, or Jasi Lolam Soduma in Tibetan, and His Holiness Dalai Lama also teach a middle session, sometimes along with the brief, the brief version of the Lamrim and the teaching, or the stages of the stages, the teachings of the path, the stage that leads to the enlightenment. So you can tell that obviously, His Holiness Dalai Lama make such an important combine those the general teaching and the basic teachings with the middle session, and is because in the middle session the Kamalashala was focused on the combination of the karma abiding and special insight. In other words, and in the middle session, he dedicated himself to specifically address the one how to achieve the unification and of the karma abiding meditation and the insight, special insight meditation. Or in other words, he dedicated himself focused on the unification of shamatha along with the vipassana. So that's why it's so important. This text we're going to study, and then the third session, the last session, according to one interpretation, that in the middle section, and Kamalashila was focused on the special insight aspect of the teaching, meaning he was focused on the inquiries and or the theory or the view, and which is technically called the vipassana, or special insight in the translation of Tibetan Pao Tong, and he was focused on that aspect of the teaching. So that's the one interpretation. And the second interpretation is it said that in the first session of the Brahmakarama and meditation and Kamalashila, who focused on the his own experience of the Shini meditation, or his own establishment or achievement of the Shini Kama abiding meditation. And then in the middle session, which is the one, the text which we are studying now, is essentially he is explaining or interpreting and the essence of the teaching of the combination or unification of shamatha and vipassana, or the Kama abiding, especially inside based upon the experiences that he achieved. And then lastly, in the third session, and he basically critiqued, or he basically made a last effort to clarify and by the means of criticizing others, or by pointing out others' false or misinterpretations, and then try to show the individual that how to avoid the misunderstandings or the misinterpretations with respect to what is the special insight. So anyway, that's yeah. So that's what's the main topic or the actual and essence of the Kamalashala's work, and so I thought to give you the sense of what the Kamalashala and his work in those 3 sessions of the work on meditation, and in particular about the essence of the middle session, and then maybe you would develop some kind of joy or interest, special interest, and then or with a clear understanding about what you are studying and what is you're going to learn, and to expect maybe will make your learning process easier and joyful.
어때니 당아주 다 종이지 가성 같은 말 참더니 말 송이나 아니 다 가성 같이 탐체경 마임비 티셔티나 에지당 젠라티비 니소조 도안디사자라 다더니 말 송나 제당 젠 데다가 나니짱 마누르짱 마청와 메반 템브샤오 에제 노랄 넨텐 지나나 인힌더 람보시키짱 도핀 데버토바 메토 왜나 알아리 우마주와지 노시 제 타타 마체 발리짱 데원 종 메티 사원라스와 강야롱와 시메나 니콜라소반 데원 문종위시로 데이터비나 데워디 인도베 제체 마너와탄 타토라 템브샤오시.
Yeah. Okay. Now, please go to your translation. The textbook. So let's see. Training. I don't know where it is. Okay. There would be no reason why. Okay. The training the mind.
It's 1 o'clock.
The training the mind also from among these causes and conditions, you should cultivate correct and complete causes. If you put the wrong causes into practice, even if you work hard for a long time, the desired goal cannot be achieved. It would be like milking a cow's horn. Likewise, the result will not be produced when all the causes are not put into effect. For example, if the seeds or any other cause is missing, then the results sprout out, and so forth will not be produced. Therefore, those who desire to particular result should cultivate its complete and unmistaken causes and conditions.
Tani dan di tsindren do gari rizna ane 단지 권이 가서 가지고 뒤송하대 네 다 탐지 첨부 도바다네 지체나 맞는 용어요 말이지 뒤송하라 다 단다디 가르스 보여주나 아니 지체 대다가 나니죠 다 제다 제 망부지와 다 탐지 첨부 도라 제다 제 망부지와 다 디나네요 저 마터 자 마츠와 나나 템버셔 오시 다 디나네 제 개첨부 저거는 제 만으로와 디라 템버셔 오시 제 노와라 낸탄 지나나 예랑 보시킨 도장 데우토바미 도즈다 제 노르상도 우상당 고체 노르상도 우지라 딘 두스니지 사무당에 정화지 되나 아니 디소랑 보는 거라마 또네 아니 데우토바요 말이다 호나 라리 우마 주와즈 노즈 또 피티잔도와 라리 우마 주와즈 노즈 카리스키로즈나 아주 우마 주야라 인치미 라마 구요라 단데나 후인데라 지자잔도 아주네 우마 주야라 람 라지르가다 페칭 아주 카리스키로 아주 나라타 라마스키도 왔다 라마리 라리 우마 주야요 말았다 가주 우마 주긴자 구주야요 말았다 우마 주야라네 Rama Kugo Sonta, and Nune, Uma Joel Rama Kama, Arali Uma to Join, and Yomar is a pit in the Jerjandu. Then Jet Tata Machepalin, Jivan John Meti, Samonas of Bakan was men and Nicholas Wonder, maybe Rosa. Tani Tamche Chamber to Pugula, Jim Mambuji or is a Jim Mambuji or the Tin Jim Chasona, a Jeta Jen, and a Jetila Nanchi Shetans and Yelensk do it, and Dila Shankala Jerjandua. Samonas one is Shankar in the Bala Samonas was Chasan. 아니 사원 처러 저 차상 말고나 아니 구치트고 말아 데부터 또또또 연구요 말 아니 비티 티 자상도 돌아 데이터는 데부터 매 지체 만나다 아니 그 제타 sten다 땡고 간실아요 제 차상 첼로만 버땡고 두지 또 구치네로 되나지래
So if you recall, and then we have talked about this in the previous occasion, and where it's emphasized the great importance of the causes and the conditions. Okay, or in other words, what are the cause and the conditions play, how critical they are, and why we need to emphasize the importance of or the profound, absolute importance of the implications of cause and effect. That is because we know that in Buddhahood as a result, and or the highest spiritual attainment is a result of something. Okay? Because it is a result of something, that means that it's involved with the causes and the conditions. Then the obvious answer is we have to working on the correct cause and the correct conditions. Okay? If a Buddhahood or anything else, for that matter, if it doesn't require the necessary causes and conditions, then things can be random. So everything can become everything, or anything come from anything. And so because there's no really particular the law of cause and effect. There's no causality, and so since that's not the case, so therefore omniscience and the enlightenment itself is the production of a particular set of cause and effect. The obvious the task for us is that we must work on and to make sure we understand the correct cause and the correct conditions, and then working on the causes, conditions which lead us to the Buddhahood. So, and yes, so therefore, we must settle, right, and be clear that the cause and the conditions is inevitably is critical, is that absolutely is required. Once you have this in your mind very clearly, right, and been sort of done, or you have this established clear sense of a correct understanding of, and the Buddhahood is the outcome of, or the production of the cause, the conditions, then next, the obvious task or the question is that what is, task is you must engage in is to try to avoid the wrong causes, right? Or make sure to avoid the incomplete conditions. Okay, try to abandon the wrong causes, right, and try to avoid the incomplete causes, conditions, and that is become necessary, right? So the thing is, if you work on with the wrong causes, right, and the incomplete conditions, for example, like especially if you work on the wrong causes, and so it doesn't matter how long the time you spend, how hard you working on, and you will not got anything and as you wish to achieve. And so working on the wrong causes, and it's just like as bad as you try to milk, right? Get a milk, right, from a cow and or from a goat. And instead, so you milk and the actual, like the nipple, right, and squeeze it, and you kind of jump into the horn of the cow or the goat, for that matter. And obviously, you know, the horn of the cow or the goat would not produce milk at all. So, and in the so therefore, it is critical for you to understand and work on the right course from the very beginning, and also working on the right course. And at the same time, you also make sure the conditions also has to be not just correct, but cannot be partial, cannot be incomplete, but it has to be completed, right? So once you have the appropriate working on, you're able to work on appropriate cause and the completed the conditions, and then you will naturally achieve your goal. So that's what the example and the Kamalashla used here to point out through the examples of milk and the proper way how to get the milk or milking, right, animal. And the second, he also used the example of by farming. The example of farming is that you know, if you want to receive or collect or have a great harvest, right, you must make sure you get the proper seeds, right, at the first. And then once you have the proper seeds, and then you need to work on all the complete the cause conditions to which nourish and ensure that seeds will spread out or produce the desired outcome, right? The proper seeds was being secured, then next the complete causes, and in the case of farmer, we know you have to make sure that where you plant has to have really a rich soil itself must be rich, right? And you have the proper amount of sunlight, and you're watering the whatever the plants and grain you're going to grow up. You're growing and have to water it, and you have to taking a good care of it, right? You have to apply also put it right a reasonable amount of fertilization and so on and so forth. So this way, right? And you have the seeds, but at the same time you also manage the other aspect of the practice that is supportive, right? Supportive or the supportive conditional and the causes, and or which is in addition to the Buddha's causes, seeds, and once you have all those in place, and then the desired result as farmer can be received.
Tene da jiwo tamje chenpa nyeje jetan chen tito kangsina mewa daga tawa mgalong tang tawi tito temper mani moji onchang chumden di je ngombar zobe sangjene deja namna chike sepa tijenta daki chumden di je dani ji sheto chumden di je te kwasewa song we dapu tamche chenpi yishi tina nyangji sawa li shungwa yin shangchibji simji jili shungwa yin ane tabji tarshimba yinu shin zhungo dita wina tamche chenpani topurun dobi nyangji tang shangchibji sim tang tab tang sambun dato tabar shawo ane nyangji shwana shangchib simhwa nam simchen tamche la ngombar dombi shi ngeru tamchawan jiru osi.
Oh yeah. Never done challenge, that's all. Okay. And now next is if you ask what are the causes and conditions of the final fruits of omniscience, I, who am like a blind man, may not be in possession to explain by myself, but I shall employ the Buddha's own words, just as he spoke them to his disciples after his enlightenment. He said, Vajrapani, Lord of secrets, the transcendental wisdom, jnana, of omniscience has its roots in compassion and arises from a cause, the altruistic thought, the awakening mind of bodhicitta, and the perfection of skillful means, upaya. Thus, if you are interested in achieving omniscience, you need to practice these three: compassion, the awakening mind of bodhicitta, and skillful means. Compassion, moved by the yeah, that's it.
Tene tante kare sungu yorjina ane ti gon to
뭔가 내가 그다든지 스킬이 인치가 보여야 되는데 이 스킬이 봐. 제가 단차를 주로 들어. 되는 스킬이 많고. So the one more line, I guess, we need to read it. Compassion, moved by compassion for the Sattva, takes a vow to liberate all sentient beings. And then by overcoming their self-centered outlook. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, there you go. Understand.
tene tati gon to ne ta tamche chemba to bala jen ne manura la teni ga mares jur manura la tena na yo je ma chwa la tena ga mares this one ora tati o tani ta ani ta ani da mulong ta was kamala khir khuranga da zel khurang bu yor khuranga ni chitang ga ne ni longa da ori sta khurang mu di longa da ta jang machine khurang ta khang chong da chen da ori meshi tene ti tab ka ni da sanji tun den diga ni ma song sha ju ga ni kwa tang long de la khit ki yin si 먼저 준비된 이제 중원부 좀 배서 저 대자는 지금에서 받다가 좀 답으셔. 지금 가서 아니 다저가 돈 선지 준비된 이거 그런 게 아니 딱 개친 정말은 초선에다 누트가 가와제네 성진이다 성집이 단 성지 지역의 남카만 지금 미만 말가니 도만은 안 나요 그랬다. 노안 나제 기타는 좀 되는 이거 놀라는 말이 지나도 새끼니 코랑 똑같이 셰딩 말이지. 큰 것도 보면 당아주 나니 통한 문제를 종세 고지 큰데 고지도 놀라는 거요라. 다 좀된 이제 간디탄 요즈나 상위도 보지다 상도라네. 탐제 챔피언이 이히도 베제스 어디 가는지나 냥지 싸워리 송아리 시생활. 아 상수지 심 이들 탑 신바지 탑제디당 아니 디 건강에 아 냥지 싸워진제다 상치성 차선 탑리단 디 탑디나 가르고 요즈나 진소 파신 지다 대윙 유즈 디고용 거다. 어 조조다 디더라 땡고 두즈들이다. 디다 맨날 탐진이 도면도 봐 냥지 당 상치는 탑선본 더는 하프샤고. 다드네 냥지 존나 상치 심당 아 너무 심전 탐정 원보도 무슨 담자본지로 오다 냥지가 간다 송송나 냥지 존나 제대 냥지가 간다 송나 젠동 그때 냥지 심어서 근데 냥지 되나 장아와 냥지 이제 아주 진지맹한 거 등가는 강아와 냥지 좀 많이 봐 네 젠동 크지 첨비 냥지 심제 탐제가 등에디 아니 통에 때 등에 당 저한테 딱가셔로 냐오냐 비 담자 때 무지 거잖아 디나가 냥지 디시 거랑 아와 냥지 지 많이 봐 젠동 크지 냥지 심부디 상조 생활 남 심전 탐정 원보도 비시 내가 담자면 저러고지다 냥지 싸워진 거 상수지 순제 발라 아니 디다가 등에 탐제다 통내 마심전 탐제 퀄리티 조이실 때 딱 담지가 이제 딱 선지 공부 토근도 그게 담자죠 같아요. 같네.
그래서 혹시 내니 세시나다. 이미 말하는 거는 나와 인지와
그때 가서 나와 냥지제 되다 냥지 점을다 나와 냥지제 때 가서 진디 망가던데 뜻이나 마르키와 전전바 전수와 용거 선바 나와 냥지스 거로 나와 냥지 때 가서 녀는 거 지나다요. 디쿠가니 심제 탐제가 등에 간에 등에 전도 좀 맞아 전도 덕샤지 띠용고 말 그러나 당가서 단다가 냥지 때 전도 크지 냥지 전부지가 trực tiếp 학습 베지 냥지 따띠 덕샤지 쿠디 탐지 특요 단 녀는 게 띠특요 말다
맞아. Okay. So here what the Kamalashla is trying to teach us is that he is essentially as point out so we're all looking forward to achieve something, right? And which is the attainment of Buddhahood, and that is the result, right? And so what is the result then, right? How do you produce this result, right? How you explain it, literally, how you explain it. And in here, in this particular context, what Kamalashla said, that to answer this question, how you can work on the correct or appropriate cause, and also to secure, sustain the proper conditions. And to answer this question, he says that I myself, Kamalashla, and is not capable or able to explain by my own. And so I'm not going to explain this or answer this question based on what I know, but rather I'm going to depend upon what the Buddha has taught to his disciple. So then according to Buddha, the way how he taught to his disciple is that so the way to attain the Buddhahood, right? One must work on to secure the proper cause, and then to secure the proper conditions, right? And then to maintain and the causes and the conditions, and then by relying on the power of the correct cause and the correct conditions, then can attend to the Buddhahood. So what the Buddha taught to his disciple, according to Kamalashla, and essentially is and about so it's about the sixth grade so Kamalashchala is saying that a Buddha working on the to find the proper cause and the proper conditions, and through the dedication of the 3 eons lifetime, right? And he dedicated himself and through the period of the 3 eons and lifetimes, and finally during his final life and in the human form, and like Siddhartha Gautama, and then he dedicated himself to the 6 years of asceticism, right? And then finally, and by the means of the middle way, and which is here is Madhyamika, and he attended Buddhahood, become a Buddha. Right? So, and the thing is here, Kamalashila is pointed to us is that there are certain things which is obvious, so therefore we don't need to depend upon the Buddha, right? And we can apply our common sense, our day-to-day life experience, and because those are the apparent or things are like the immediate, right? Or can apply to our direct perception, but the things which only can be addressed, can be addressed by inferential and valid combination. Then of course we depend on the or through the by the power of inferential valid combination, and then we can get to understand, because that is not absolute hidden or absolute obscured phenomenon. But there are things, right? Because it's absolutely hidden or absolutely obscured, so we cannot apply our basic understanding, our concepts, and we also cannot infer. So therefore, we have to apply the scripture authority. In other words, we have to depend upon what the Buddha says. So what the Buddha says here is that in terms of attainment of Buddhahood, we have to work. And when asked the question, he replied to the Vajrapani. He didn't say that Buddhahood essentially, and you need to work on the seeds. Something as essential is important at the beginning, and important in the middle, and important at the end, and that is the great compassion. So great compassion and can be also understood in as the space at the seeds, because with the great compassion, and one can further pursuing the specific practice, such as the 6 greater perfections of Vajrayana Paramita, or the 4 and the doing Yoshi. Yeah, that's the 4 teachings of substantial teachings and collective teachings. So then according to Buddha here, the way he answered the Vajrapani and the Lord of the Secrets, and he is saying that to by securing develop the great compassion, and then you can definitely attain the Buddhahood. So here we have to know that one of the important things, the compassion, the idea of compassion as a skillful means, and the form of compassion which we talk about here, or the Buddha taught to Vajrapani, is not the general sense of compassion, but the form of compassion which belongs to which is the 5th item, and or 5th teachings of 7 quintessential instructions of cause and effect. We know that the 7 quintessential instructions, like recognize also me as the mother, and then think of and her kindness, and then think of how to repair her kindness, and then develop the closeness, which is kindness, and then the fifth is the compassion. But the form of compassion which Vajrapani asked Buddha and Buddha taught it to him, in fact, is taught to us, and is not that form of compassion. Because this form of compassion, as the fifth items of seven quintessential instruction, is you can find that compassion and from the beings such as the Shravaka or Hiras, and or solitary realizer, and or Pratyeka Buddha. Why? Because both the heroes, hearers, and the solitary realizer, they both are and have this compassion, which is the fifth, the compassion, and that is a part of the seven quintessential instructions, right? And of the cause and effect. And so, meaning that that is the kind of the compassion which is common for both, right? And the Bodhisattva and the non-Bodhisattva practitioners. But the form of compassion which Buddha emphasized and told Vajrapani, you have to work on and you have to develop, and once develop, you work on, develop, then that will lead you to all the way to omniscience and a perfect enlightenment. That is the compassion of altruism, or in other words, which is the altruistic intention. So that altruistic intention is that not all there are all sentient beings suffering, or may they free from suffering, may all sentient beings obtain the happiness and cause of happiness. Not like that. This particular form of happiness, or not happiness, compassion. This particular form of compassion, which is the compassion, which is the altruistic thoughts, altruistic intention, and that is like the sixth and the items of seven quintessential instructions, the cause and effect. That is, I want attend Buddhahood, and myself will physically engaging and to the actual attainment, the process of attainment myself, and then by the means of attainment of Buddhahood, I am going to address the suffering of each individual myself. So that very determination, that I'm going to do that. You take as your personal responsibility, and then engaging to do whatever you can under the guidance or the determination. So I want to attend Buddha for the sake of sentient being. That very determination, that is the form of is the result of the form of compassion that Buddha taught Vajrapani. So that's what the compassion we needed here.
그래서 딱히 다티런한테 참자잖아. 다티 소식당 제가 그제 요소더니 다 구조 좋아지는 거 있나요? 그제 전도.
Oh yeah. So I guess let's stop here today because it's we took this about an hour and a half, and so now I would like to see whether you have any questions for me.
As far as causes and conditions to achieve a desired goal, I just happened to be reading recently about Marpa and Milarepa, and Marpa wouldn't provide a teaching for Milarepa until he had gone through, I believe it was years of harsh physical labor, build things and tear them down, and build them and tear them down again. I don't know what the message is in that necessarily. Is there a message for me to take from that as far as a cause or a condition?
Okay. Alright. That 저기 공원에 아주 주만도 받다 아니 좀 만도 맞춰와 근데 송 강니까 송바대단 취니 아니 간데 주셔요 간데들이 가다비는도 아니 니위 차는데 지밀라로가 동조스타나 지밀라로가 다구리데 다구데게 노버이 다구데나와 간데 남페스나 다구데 나라카리오스네 마바 로자와게 공글라마 지밀라로 마바 로자와게 지밀라로가 네 카프가 고추슈 침바르이나 카프가 취만나 버제 아니 권할라 칼네 두개하게 레가디 리 제제 아니 로로로 뭐무시라니 그 카라 지지게 쿨레라고 보네 베티 칼리 가와제 칼리 제제 아니 데디시네 아니 제도와세 제도 아니 코게 마와 로자와게 지밀라로라니 주나다 스나다 냠네 티치 치나다 디다 마주 보내 샤바게 주마 상와다 마노와세고는 디니가니 디아르네 샤바이나 마와 로자와나다디 주마 상와다 네 마노와 데리시 그나다 데리시 보내 용샤브르레스
라소 네 따티 카리레스 코나 네 치탕가 마와도 자와 말라리와 그런 치토라다 콜로지노 통통즈가나 그 치토라다 할리와 딜리 몽부지 지원하다 따티 그런 거 배치 마와도 저거네 로지라 군자요 나티 차상 배치 로지 챙고지레네 말라리와가 딱 그거 미세요레 그 아마가 칼리슈젠티도 나타 그거네 수수 그 태정가 송하라 태정가 송네네 차와다네 미세요레 데네 첼로로네 미크레 따미 몽부지 미 가르자 니다 직습나 직세야라다 그런 거 같아 차와만 시라와네 두지 제송가 딱 그 어투니드네 장하라 장주데 아마라다 그 아상데 강게 수지 체네 데네 수수 그 손자만 상가지 치디 쿠냐는 제 그 치치리 치다 상지야가네 간도지 시자말라다 다지마 그런나다 그런 출단도 오지네 다치던 아주 상가가 치지야디 치찬네나 네 장군 무식 남지 송고도 데레디 담바치 센다 계속 가서 결천지다 가서 결천은 냠는 제진 살이다 아주 용적라니 지 할리와 상가라 아니 대반도 메 간도 메나 지 시초초 요구요서 말이 상가가 치제디 된다 인사래但그 상가가 치정 거요 말라 딱 공문이 전에네 코디 카드 좀 뭐고 징네네 말라리와가 남들 뭐 본제뇨 따때 로년나 잡으셨는데 딱 그런 거니 문이 전에 그 치디라니 노바요 그다 그 뜻이 당하시더래 수수 시오 칼리지가 그 카르티스 카르틴 도큐멘트즈 양식 문이 전에 그 라마나 타지도 그 대바 요까 메까 때 뜻이 당하게 쳤더래 수수들이 진네들이 아니네 아주 단다 간네네 아주 제마 창다 제마노라제디 가지나 아니 개친 정부단디 오타토는 연구를 당아주 양지 전부디 개친보 연바디다 아니 상수지 승대 양지 전부래 양지 전부가 저송나 아주 상수지 심지 듣고요 데라 허통지가 아니 소조 돈이 또 싫고 존재용네 아주니 그러다 누가 두소네 개친 정말씀도 소선의 상지위셔지 탈론디선 걸 단다데 제마노다 제마 상어제디 단단데 뭐라도가 가데 그 치치리치라 아니 상지와 그 탈론지 나로지 지가 개깔리 맞으나 그 치인드니 치심마버소나 그 안녕하로야마 또 매제 땡케지 차인지 그런 백 년조 되지니 딱그 가르즈나 단다 그 치치리치 개텐들라 키 상지와 그 치지 좀 맞아이나 굳이 희송하다 그 좋아지면 그 안녕하로 좀 아이다 안녕하로소나 답변 심전지 손다지 지소나 그 치드가 그 그거요 말이지 많이 아니 강시 엄마니 배면 많이 강시 전에 주상지 유즈나 딱 그때 미치대 이러요 말아 소스 그제잖아 두스레다 그 이마 그 수치리치라고 상지하게 치지나로 지지 다 뒤는 거라 안 소스야 돼 할리와 배 가침고 수수 안 가셔도 냠내 이마스나도 자모틀이 그때 냠내지 마트나 수수수 내바자 뭐 보여서도 요리스도 괜찮도 송도 안 냠내지 마트네 자모틀이 좀 마시는 수수수 통통매서 수수 님바자 되라 어다 수수 되다 말아리와 지야데 그거 안 가셔네 그 치치리치라 상지하고 담바잖아로 지자마 그 수수데 칼리지 감지고데 그 뜻이 당해지다 나무 문이 전에 그 딘다고 치료하고 딘도 봐요 감이그지 수수 딘사래
That's all. Okay, so to answer your question, I guess we have to approach this from a different perspective. or put it into the actual context. Then we can understand it better. So essentially, we know that Marva, you probably have read all the stories, and so therefore, I don't need to probably to tell you and about the context, right? And however, since you raised this question, and for the benefits of others, let me give a little bit background of the why the relationship between the Marva, the master Marva, and the way to translate the Marva and his disciple Milarepa in such a way, meaning that the teacher treated it, and teacher Marva treated his disciple Milarepa, as you said, is by putting him in the intensive physical labor, right, and instead of giving him a teacher right away. So the contents is like you mentioned about Marva, the story. So what happens in the Marva's story, the Milarepa story, he in the beginning, right, in order to honor his mother or punish and his uncle and aunt, Milarepa so dedicated himself to the black magic or some kind of exorcism, and so where he performed, he became very successful, and he performed this black magic, and then he created the blood, right, and so and the other disaster, and the result, the 13 and the sentient beings got killed, including the humans and the horse, the animal. And then after he done such a terrible thing in the name of the revenge, and he realized and that the terrible crime or the negative karma he has committed, that he realized that he must purify his negative karma, and otherwise he will be reborn in a terrible, receive a terrible rebirth, and so there's no way for him to free himself, and so then he turned around and looking around, he find that the Vajrayana, right, the shortcut, right, is the solution for him to purify all the negative karmas committed, and then attend the Buddha in the single lifetime, in that very present life. So therefore, he approached the Marva Lozawa instead of taking like 3 eons of time and or go approach the Sutrayana, the path or the teachings of Sutrayana, and which is of course takes many lifetimes, and then he decided to go find the Marva, his teacher, Marva, the great translator Marva, and asking him, teach him specifically the path which required him the absolute dedication, absolute faith, and absolute the devotion. And so then he went to Marva, as the story goes on, as you know, and they say, please teach me in the Vajrayana and the teachings of sacred path, because I want to attain enlightenment in a single lifetime. So Marva saw what the Milarepa's intention is, and he also see that the urgency of in terms of purifying Milarepa's negative karma by such as killing, and then so he decided to teach. But in order to test his loyalty, his faithfulness, and his devotion, and particularly his will and his determination to free himself and from the negative karma, and also to return the kindness of all sentient beings, and by the means of Buddhahood, attainment of Buddhahood. So Marva then gave him this physical labor, hard work, and to train his mind, and to train him become a very dedicated, fully committed individual to the teaching itself. So then you can see at this point what Marba's teach is from the point of view of right cause and the right conditions, and that we just talked about, and essentially is suitable. Why? Because Milarepa is determined to attain Buddhahood in single lifetime, and he is more or less ready. But his teacher wanted him, he absolutely dedicated, 100% committed. So, and therefore, he fulfilled, and instead of go take the like a Sutrayana's approach, that means a long time, many lifetime later, and he gave him a specific teaching of Vajrayana that can help him address the negative karmas and that he committed, and so the way to free himself and help him and free himself from the negative karma and help him to attain the enlightenment for the sake of all sentient being. And Mahabharata taught him the Vajrayana path, where he has to engage in the serious and very sophisticated set of teaching that requires about the exercise of prana and the wind, and also the exercise of the bindu and the chakra. So therefore, the way the Marba trained the Milarepa at this particular context, from the right cause and right condition point of view, is suitable. And as we know, as a result, Milarepa passed all those tests, and then Marba taught him the sets of teaching, and then helped him to attain the Buddhahood in the single lifetime. So therefore, you see, there's two things going on. One is a Vajrayana approach that's very specific, very restricted, right? And in fact, and His Holiness Dalai Lama also says, and in general, the individuals who is not ready, and then he or she is not supposed to undertaking the Vajrayana teaching. Why? Because if you are not 100% ready and fully committed and understood well, and then your practice of prana and the bindu and the wind or chakra, and it could lead you to become very sick and even become crazy. So therefore, it's not recommended, and generally. But for those specific individuals, they are ready. That's the different case. So yes, the answer is, we have to know that right cause and right condition, and this teaching has to be based upon what form of teaching, right? Vajrayana or Sutrayana, and so it's a context is very important.
그래서 다 되는 건 가지고 딘진다디 참치고니 다자님마가 단님마 공상 님마 체크라니 자상 주요용이 문제시고 요니 되는 건 딘다디 참치잖아.
So that's the end of today's discussion, and thank you again for joining me this afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and be with me, and thank you for your time, and I wish the rest of your Sunday is very pleasant, and taking care, and see you next time.
Say the closing prayer on page number 88.
Simjo Rambo Je Maji Wana Je Jewa Nyamba Meba Yang Kone Konda Pevarjo Kanre Rave Kowe Shankanza Pandan Dewa Malin Jongwe Tende Zhuang Tanzhen Jiangzu Yi Xiabe Sente Wada Tanjir Ju Jabe Hua Cheter Chemba Tang Kanda Zombo Teyan Tejen Teta Kinji Jiza Dana Jegewa Dada Tamje Radang Tisam Shabi Jawa Tamje Jingwa Kanla Chodang Haba Dajen Givi Zawan Dagan Jong Zombo Joje Radang Warju Jone Tamba Tajan Je Tenzhen Jewo Tamje Kakung Zong Li Jen Kan La Di Jen Jong Sanje Tamba Tada Je Ju Kente Jawa Zong Ka Wei Tanjo Xinyang Isa Zepe Jawe Ngabe Lam Zhang Denye Le Kai Chi Zang Yang Da Bur Ma Ju